Welcome to episode 21 of Military Veterans Podcast, where we talk to veterans to learn about their stories and experiences. And today we're joined by Tony Brooks. Hey, Tony.
How's it going?
It's going good. How are you today?
I'm doing wonderful. It's a beautiful day in the Pacific Northwest, and it's my day off, so it's perfect.
Nice. It's doing good over here actually as well in the UK, South UK. Been pretty hot day so far. So, yeah, you're a long way behind me in time though. So, good morning over there.
Yes, yeah, and good evening to you.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and doing this remote recording with me. I'm doing well, I think. I'm looking at the camera right now, which still puts me off because your face is down there. I just want to look at your face. But I'm still learning, but we'll get there. But like I say, thanks for coming on. We're going to start the show with the 4 questions, as I always do. And I'll give you those questions one at a time. And if you could then bullet point answer, and then we'll dive into the main part of the show. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Awesome stuff. All right, here they come. So the first question is, when did you join the military?
I joined the military in 2003. So shortly after 9/11, I enlisted and I was on my way.
Nice. And then what service and branch did you join?
I was in the United States Army, and I was a specialized 11 Bravo or Infantry with the Special Operations Army Ranger designation.
Nice. And then how long did you serve for?
I did 4 years on active duty and then 2 years in the California Army National Guard.
Nice. I'm actually looking forward to that part there because the National Guard is something that's still a little bit of a mystery to me. So hopefully we can learn something from there. And lastly, what rank did you get to?
That's a good question because I did reach Sergeant E5, and then I made a few mistakes and I was demoted back to my previous rank of corporal, and that's where I ended.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll touch on that. We'll see how you feel later. But let's rewind a little bit. Let's go back to the beginning. Where was you born and where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I was born in Northern California in a little town called Roseville, which is about 25 miles outside of Sacramento, the capital of California. And it's like the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains, so it's like rolling hills and farmland. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. Nice.
I've actually been to Sacramento once on a road trip, and I was like, why does this sound familiar? And now you're saying it's the capital, I was like, oh, there we go. But yeah, really, really nice part of California. I love California as a state in itself. But yeah, really, really cool. And so how was your school life? How did you find schooling?
I'm one of those people that you look around the classroom and you're like, that guy doesn't even have to try. I was always that guy, and I always felt bad that, when the teacher would give a lesson, I would just get it.
Okay.
And so schooling actually in the way we do it in the US is like a didactic model where the teacher's up front teaching and you're just sitting in the classroom listening. And I thrived in that model. I absolutely loved school, did well, academically, and I often found myself being the kid that the teacher would assign to go help other students. So I love school. I always did.
Nice. So you're quite an academic person, the opposite to me. And what was you like with sport or anything, practical?
Yeah, so I was, I would say a decent athlete. My sports that I excelled in were basketball, even though I'm only 5'10". Basketball was one of my better sports, and then golf. Golf was my absolute best sport.
And so you had golf at school?
I did not. Actually, we did not have golf at school. Yeah.
I was going to say that's quite a good school, and everybody's going to be flocking there.
No, didn't have it at school, unfortunately.
And so did you stay in the same area for school? Was there any moving around?
Yeah, when I was 18 years old, I actually left my hometown and shipped off to the University of Arizona in Tucson, and that's where I started my college career. And we'll get into this more later, but within my first few weeks of school was the 9/11 terrorist attacks here in the U.S. So that was
Okay,
kind of
okay.
my beginning.
Right. So that, yeah, 2001 is when you started your college time. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And so what did that look like? Everybody seems to remember where they were, what they were doing when that happened. And we're actually recording this quite early from when it's going to be airing. So we're recording this in September, which is the 20th anniversary. So what was you doing, and what do you remember back then?
Yeah, it's crazy. Everyone pretty much remembers what they were doing and all these weird details about that day. I was in my dorm room getting ready to go to the gym like I did every morning. It was kind of my way to decompress and de-stress. So get ready to go to the gym, and I don't normally do this, but I turned on the TV just for a moment, just to see what was on the news, and I don't know why. And the first thing I saw was one of the towers was on fire. And I was like, oh, that's weird. I wonder what happened. And it wasn't, 15 minutes later that the second tower was hit with an airplane. And I was watching it live. And I just remember dropping my towel, and I had shoes in my hand, and I dropped those. And instantly, I just knew that, this might be World War III.
Yeah.
We're under attack, and I don't know if this is a foreign power. I don't know what it is, but it certainly looks like war to me.
And when you were watching that news, did you think, have I got the right channel? Is this actually a movie? Because it felt like that, didn't it, when it was happening?
Yeah, it was very surreal. Initially I didn't really understand what I was seeing. It's like, oh, it's a huge fire. Why is it on the news? And slowly I kind of get the gist that a plane flew into the building. I'm like, oh, wow, how does that happen? And then that second one hit, and it was very obvious this was not an accident. And it was, honestly, that was the moment that I knew that I should not be at college. I'm in the wrong place. This is not what I need to be doing with my life. And instantly I wanted to leave school.
Okay. Yeah, very powerful time, I suppose, of changing your direction in life. And I've said this on previous episodes, but I was actually in Oman with the army. I was a teenager myself. And so when it happened, I learnt about the world very, very quickly. So you said then that you had that need, that want, that like calling to go and support the country. So before you did that and going back, did you have any links to the military for your family, or was this something that is solely from yourself?
I have links to the military. Both of my grandfathers served in the Korean War and the United States Navy. I didn't really know much about their service. They didn't really talk about it very much. They kind of kept it to themselves.
All right, we're back. We just had a quick pause there because phone call came in. We had to take. I said it wasn't done jointly or anything like that. But Tony, we got to the point of you talking about your grandparents. Is that right? And they having links to the military.
Yeah, so both of my grandparents, Korean War, and I didn't really know much about their service. So I didn't have that much of a connection to the military prior to 9/11. My brother was a big military history buff growing up, so I think I learned most of my military knowledge from him. He was always infatuated with actually the British SAS and United States Army Rangers. And so I always have to hear it from him as a kid. And I didn't
Nice.
care. I mean, I really had no interest.
And you say that was your brother,
But
yeah?
my younger brother, correct.
Younger brother. Did he end up joining?
He actually did follow me into military service. He was going to do the very same thing I did and become an Army Ranger. And he had a horrific shoulder injury that took him out of service.
Ah.
So Yeah, that was a little unfortunate. But
did he get free training and stuff, or was that whilst in training?
he was in his last week of the initial training or boot camp, basically.
Sorry, brother. Sorry, brother.
Yeah, he finished everything. Every single task was completed, and he was basically just waiting for graduation. And of course, drill sergeants in the United States Army will take every opportunity to punish you for silly things. And they were dropping them to do push-ups. And he dropped down to do push-ups like he'd done a million times. And his right shoulder just completely exploded. And yeah, so he had multiple surgeries to repair it. And yeah, he's doing well now, but that was pretty devastating for him.
Yeah, I bet. So if you're listening to this, brother, sorry about that. But for yourself, Tony, you then headed off to, do you guys have career offices, or how does it work over there in regards to joining up?
Yeah, so we have career offices or recruiter offices all over in basically every city in America. And you basically walk in there and they will tell you what jobs are available. And that's questionable if they're actually available or if that's what they're just told to recruit for. Yeah. But I came in with a job that I wanted. And I said, listen, 9/11's happened. I'm familiar with certain jobs and I want to be an Army Ranger. And of course they looked at me being the skinny, nerdy kid that I was. And it's like, oh, you sure? You really sure you want to do that? And, I was pretty dead set. I'm a very analytical, I do a lot of research before I make any move. And I knew that was it. That was the only thing I really wanted to do. So the recruiter gave me all the tests to try to determine your aptitude and what jobs you qualify for. And he looked at me and said, infantry. You really want to do special operations infantry? We have computer technicians and, people that fly drones and pilots and all these things. And you qualify for those. You sure you don't want to, learn some technology?
Yeah.
His way of saying, you're a nerd. What are you thinking? And I wasn't interested. I had done the nerd thing, and that's why I'm here, because I didn't want to do the nerd thing anymore. So I wanted to use my, physical abilities and my drive and my will to serve my country as a weapon. Okay. And that was what drove me to the special operations realm.
Nice. So in some ways you are kind of like maybe one of the newer Captain Americas, because Captain America was skinny and nerdy when he joined, and then if you're into Marvel, that is. So you get there, you sign up essentially, and just out of interest, with that, what's just happened, was there a lot of influx of people wanting to do a similar thing to what you've just done, with seeing what was on TV and wanting to join up to serve?
Yeah, it's a very incredible time in I think world military history, but specifically American military history, that it's the first time that we've gone into a major operation with 100% volunteer military. In all prior wars, there was a draft, and people were basically being forced into military service like they do in most countries, but in the U.S. this is unique. And it was all volunteer, and people were signing up in droves to defend the United States. It was pretty incredible looking back.
Yeah.
That we never had to institute any forced military service. In fact, at some points they were getting so many people that they had to start weeding people out, making sure that people were going into the jobs that they qualified most for.
Yeah. And maybe
that's a good thing for the military.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe that's why the Brits and the Americans, not only because of the history, but because we're all voluntary. We all want to be there, and maybe that's another reason why we get on so well. So you head off to your basic training.
Correct.
Whereabouts is that, and what was the initial part for you like?
Yeah, so Army basic training starts based on your branch or your specialty, and mine was infantry. So all infantrymen go to Fort Benning, Georgia. And if you've ever been to Georgia, you know that it's very hot and very humid. And it's, we joke about it in military circles that it's the armpit of the U.S. because it's so hot and humid. And it's not exactly a place you go to visit for a vacation.
Yeah, I haven't been there myself, so.
And we, that's where we start our infantry training. Well, we start with basic training and then infantry training. And then shortly thereafter, you go into airborne training.
Okay.
So you're learning how to jump out of airplanes with static line. And static line, it's pretty simple, right? You connect your static line to the plane, and we say you jump out, but really you fall out of the plane, and your chute gets pulled automatically because you're jumping from about probably 1,500 feet or below. So it's very, very low altitude jumping.
Oh yeah, sounds dead easy, right? I mean, I don't think I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I would say it is easy, but it is also very hard on the body, and I'm not going to even lie about it and say that I was scared every single time I did it.
Yeah.
I was like, why am I doing this? You're an idiot. Why do you keep doing this? And then you get in the air and you're like, wow, this is awesome because your parachute's open, right?
Yeah,
and then you have to hit the ground.
But just before you carry on with that, like basic training. So did you find any part of basic training? Because in the UK, it's like a 3-month long period of training, mm-hmm. getting you basically back to being nothing and building you back up. Shaved heads, all that stuff that you see in the movies. And I'm pretty sure it's the same in the US. How did you find basic training yourself, considering you said you were a nerd?
Yeah, I mean, I would, surprisingly, basic training wasn't that difficult, in my opinion. It was, the hardest thing for me was I came from a very middle class, kind of a boring upbringing, to be honest. It was more like you would see in the movies, like, happy family life, really no problems. Parents made decent money, so nothing was really hard for me as a kid. And I think most people in the United States military don't have those type of upbringings.
Okay.
They come from, usually tougher backgrounds, maybe lower class, lower income. And the hardest thing for me was seeing where all those people had come from. Like I almost felt guilty that, my life was so easy compared to a lot of theirs. Right. So that was the hardest part for me, the humanity of seeing my people going through the very same thing I am. They have to do the same task, but their start in life was much more difficult than mine. So on one hand, I was becoming an Army Ranger. On the other hand, I'm this really soft, empathetic person. I mean, that's probably why I'm a doctor now. But it really bothered me. I felt for those guys. They had to earn everything they've ever had in their life, and I felt like the simple things that I took for granted, like my new clothes and my new shoes and my ability to play sports. Not all those guys had that. Yeah. So the military really brought us all together and taught me more about humanity, really.
Nice. And bonding that brotherhood that we talk about, and sisterhood.
Absolutely.
And so from basic, you move on to the infantry aspect. And did you find that difficult? I'm guessing you're learning new tactics and maybe new weapons.
Yeah, absolutely. So the weapons part, I had weapons exposure, but not a lot growing up. My family is hunters, so I did some bird hunting, and like we hunted for pheasant. I shot shotguns. Not a lot of rifle shooting, but I had some exposure. So the weapons were, I would say, newer for me, and it was a blast. I loved it. I absolutely loved every second of learning weapons and how to become proficient with marksmanship. So,
and are you any good at it? Any good at shooting?
Yeah, I became very good.
Okay.
And that it was fun. I mean, I had a lot of fun doing it, and I honestly, the only time it ever got hard was when I went into Ranger training. So
Okay.
I never. I mean, it was physical, but mentally, there was no way I was going to quit.
Right.
So I think it was more physical stuff. Yeah, you just do it.
So you do infantry and then you do airborne training, is that right? And then is
Correct.
Ranger another bit after that?
Yeah, so right after airborne school, you do your 5 jumps to become airborne qualified, and
Okay.
that's the first time in the military where you actually get weekends off and you can actually leave the base. So you get a little bit of freedom. And we just partied. We would go off the base and we were partying every weekend. So it was a fun time for us. And then came the reality check of, after you finish airborne, you go to this program called Ranger Indoctrination Program.
Okay.
And the acronym is RIP.
Oh.
And they make that very clear. and that's exactly what it is. It's they break you down to absolutely nothing. They physically try to bring you to a point where your body cannot go any further. The only thing that's going to push you further is you breaking mental barriers and continuing to push, because your body's going to quit.
Okay.
And it's a 4-week course of just pure hell.
Right.
It's four weeks of them just destroying you for 20 to 22 hours a day.
So to get this going, and just to be honest, I'm probably going to ask some stupid questions. And I'm going to start off right now with, if you were going to explain to somebody like me or a civilian or whoever's got interest in the military, especially the US, what is Rangers? Because we've heard of the SEALs in the UK, we've heard of the SAS and the SBS, but what are the Rangers within the US military?
Yeah, so the Rangers are the top tier special operations light infantry force. So anytime there's a high value target that requires a lot of infantry, and essentially it's really high value, it has to be a high value target, the United States military is going to use Airborne Rangers. It's the largest special operations force in what we call Joint Special Operations Command. So that's essentially who the Rangers are.
Okay.
I mean, it's basically the top infantry unit in the Army.
Right. That's cool. And weirdly, I don't know whereabouts it is in development, but the British Army is developing a Ranger unit. And who they're making it up of, I'm not 100% sure, but that's in development. So, maybe the Brits are starting to copy something from the Americans. So,
yeah, I think this is actually a trend actually across the world. It's not just the Brits. And
okay.
The busiest force in the entire global war on terror was the 75th Ranger Regiment. So with that, I think the whole world learned how valuable this large, elite, special operations light infantry unit really is. And I think exactly what's happening is actually, I actually know some Rangers that are helping to train those nice. British Rangers as well. So yeah. They're actually stationed in the UK right now.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah. Well, hi.
They're probably watching this. Yes.
They're probably watching. So you complete training. You pass everything first time. There's no back squatting, as we would call it in the UK, for yourself.
Thankfully, honestly, I don't know if I could have done it 2 times. So thankfully, I did get through the first go, and it's about. I mean, I think about 30 to 40% of our class that started made it through.
Okay.
So it's pretty rigorous, and they give you ample opportunity to quit. That's for certain.
Yeah. Well, I did the first part of Army Divers course in the UK, and that's I mean, it's not 4 weeks. It's 1 week. The first part is 1 week long of crazy stuff they do to you
Yes.
to become an army diver. And it's just to basically break you, whether that's physically or mentally. And I was lucky to finish. I was one of 5, 21 started. So I was very proud of that. But I know what you mean, where they really push you to your limits. So from or within that part, is there something like within that 4-week period that almost broke you, that stands out as your pinnacle moment, that you became something that you didn't think you could?
Yes, it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. No. I mean, there was one particular event that I remember, and it was a forced march that we had to do, and we had about 60-pound packs, and we had no sleep, and they already broken us down for a couple weeks, and we had to march out to this field training exercise. And I say march, but really it was a sprint with the 60 pounds on your back, and they basically drive you into the ground as fast and as hard as they can. And I just remember wanting to quit, gosh, probably 30 minutes into it. I was thinking, I've got like 4 more hours of this, maybe more. There's no way. I'm 30 minutes in and I'm about to die.
Yeah.
So I had to, I swear it felt like it took 3 days, but I just kept telling myself, just keep going until you pass out. Then it's not quitting.
Yeah.
And I thought I was there a few times. There were a few times when I felt like the gates were closing in, and for some reason I just was able to keep going. I think, sadly, I mean, this is crazy, but when you saw people fall and people quit, it actually was motivator. You're like, I beat that guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
right. Yeah,
it's just human nature, I think, to feel good when you're exceeding expectations.
Yeah.
So I think, honestly, that was probably the thing that kept me going, was other people failing.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't want to be that, and because you see they're completely defeated, physically, mentally, emotionally, and
yeah, go for it. Yeah.
And that's what kept me going.
That's what kept you going. Yeah. That reminds me what you just said about when people quit or when people are injured. Like the ones that quit, you think are better than him, but the ones that get injured, you feel so bad for them because you know that they wanted to keep going. And that actually reminds me of when we were doing the Army Divers course. I was not the fittest. I was typically at the back, but I just kept on going. I wouldn't quit. And when we got into the water to do the water diving stuff, they'd chuck us in with our fins and we'd start finning. Now, I'd already been a civilian diver, so I knew I was great in water, and I'd actually be really in front of everybody. Different on land, but in the water I was in front of everybody. And I remember when we first got in there, one of the instructors came up to me and went, "Fucking hell, Watson, finally something you're good at." And I just remember that kept me going. I was like, yes, I'm good at diving. So that kept me going.
That's pretty funny, because I had a moment in Ranger Indoctrination when we were all down doing push-ups, and there was about 60 of us at the time. And they were screaming and yelling, "Someone's got to quit. We're not leaving until someone quits. Do your buddies a favor and fucking quit." And that's what he kept yelling at us, and right in our faces. And I had this very moment of lapse of judgment where I put a knee down instead of holding the push-up position, and he turned and looked right at me when I did it. Just like right on me. "Brooks, come here." And he, pulled me in front of everybody and just ripped into me. And then he said, "All right, Brooks wants to quit, so I'm going to punish all of you because of him." And I had to lead the cadence for the push-ups. And that was like probably the worst feeling in the world. everyone on the ground was pissed off, like, oh my God, you idiot, what are you doing? And of course, then I got my wits about me, and he told me to keep leading the cadence. I just dropped down and started doing push-ups with everybody else.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And I thought, when I dropped down, I'm like, oh boy, he's pissed. He started getting mad. He started walking towards me, and then he just walked away because that's what he wanted.
Nice.
And yeah, it just felt like the right thing to do at the time. Thank God.
Thank God you did it. Yeah.
I was horrified by the whole thing.
Yeah. So yes, it's good to reminisce, right? But in the moment, you just, it's a different story.
Yes.
So you complete Ranger School. It is Ranger School, isn't it?
No, this is the Ranger Indoctrination Program. Ranger School actually comes later.
Oh, wow. Okay. Mind blown already. So yeah, where'd you go from the RIP course? Where's next?
So after you pass Ranger Indoctrination Program, that entitles you, to get assignment to the 75th Ranger Regiment. And once you get your assignment, it's either 1st Battalion, 2nd Battalion, or 3rd Battalion. 1st and 3rd Battalion are in Georgia, and 2nd Battalion is in Washington State, so all the way across the country. And they put you in groups, and they say, if you want to go to this battalion, go in this group, and this battalion, go to this group, and we're all running around like crazy men. And that's when we finally got word that, okay, you guys want to go to 2nd? Fine, you guys can go to 2nd. But in the back of our heads, we thought it was like a test. Like, you want to go to 2nd? Well, you're actually going to go to 1st because you don't get what you want in the military.
Yeah.
So I ended up in 2nd Ranger Battalion at Fort Lewis. So that's where you head. And basically you get to your unit and you're the new guy. And it kind of starts all over again. They start breaking you down again. And you got to earn your spot there in your unit.
Where did you say it was? Sorry, Fort
Lewis in Washington State. Yeah,
in Washington
State. It's now
State.
called.
Okay.
They call it what? Joint Base Lewis McChord now is the official name.
Right. Okay. So yeah, what was that like? Did you have to? I mean, when we joined units, we had to drink the top shelf in the bar and do lots of other crazy things. So what was your what do they call it? Your initiation?
Yeah, so I wish there was bar involved, but no bar. And it was basically more physical testing, physical and mental testing.
Okay.
Just kind of test your will. Do you really want to be here? Yeah, you made it through Ranger Indoctrination, but do you really want to be here?
Right.
And so you're basically doing it again. And it just so happened that when I arrived to 2nd Ranger Battalion, they were deployed to Iraq.
Oh, was they? Okay.
And that was in 2004. And so I arrived to basically a few guys that didn't deploy for whatever reason. They were at schools or they were hurt. So they were angry.
Right.
and my first day there, I'll never forget it. Private First Class Nathan Stahl was killed in action in Iraq. And that was the first news that I got when I arrived to my unit. So didn't really start off on a really good foot there. Got really a test of what war really is.
Yeah. And then do you start training and stuff, and do you deploy yourself, or what does that look like the first kind of 6 months?
Yeah, it's in the 75th Ranger Regiment, you deploy regularly. They're very, very active, and they're always doing some type of mission. So when I arrived, they were already on a mission. They were already deployed. So I went into the training cycle, which at the time was about a 6-month cycle of training in the States before your next trip or next deployment. And I was right at the beginning of it, so I got a full 6 months of training when I arrived.
Okay. And was that kind of difficult for yourself? But I mean, coming from basic training and Airborne and the RIP, was it fairly easy, or was it new stuff to learn?
Every single day was a challenge as a brand new private in the 75th Ranger Regiment. because they're building you up to be, a special operations force now.
Right.
And you've earned your right to be there. Congratulations. Now you need to learn how to be good at it.
Got it.
And that's where really you break your bread and you learn all these skills, and you're practicing, 10 hours a day of, ready ups. Can you bring your rifle to the same spot over and over and over again? And you do that until you can't lift your arms anymore.
Okay.
And then you do room clearing the next day for another 12 hours to see that everything, they have you on cameras, they give you rounds, and you're shooting at live targets. And they expect you to be excellent. And when you're not, you keep doing it. You work to standard. So it's a really fun environment as far as if you like to be the best at something, there's no better place. Because you don't get a choice.
Yeah.
You're either going to be excellent or you're out of here. So
nice.
It really taught me a lot about myself and how to be the best at something.
Yeah.
So it's like a life skill that I will forever cherish, because I don't like to toot my own horn very often, but I would say I'm one of the better chiropractors in the world.
Nice.
And
nice.
I don't say that to brag, but I say that because I actually take what I do extremely seriously. I practice, I do drills. I continually educate myself and get better always, because I want to be the best. And I learned that, I learned that skill in the 75th Ranger Regiment. So really awesome place.
Yeah. And that's why, the Rangers is part of the elite force, right? So you finished the kind of like 6-month build-up training, and then is that because you're about to deploy somewhere?
Yeah, so my first deployment was in the summer of 2005, and we were being sent to Bagram, Afghanistan. And in 2005, Special Operations Unit in the United States military were actually kind of winding down. I think we thought the war was close to ending. Boy, were we wrong. But things were slowing down as far as the Special Operations units were concerned. And we got overseas in, I believe it was April of 2005. And there weren't a lot of operations for us, because it was more hearts and minds at that time rather than combat.
Okay.
So it was a different time. And what we did when we first got there is we trained in country more. So just became more proficient.
Yeah. Learn the ground and learn the terrain and understanding where you were stationed, I guess.
Yeah, and that's rare. If you look at the whole 20 years of the Afghan war, the 75th Ranger Regiment was on combat operations almost every day for those 20 years.
Yeah.
So the period of a few months when I got there that we were almost non-operational was very unique and rare. And I was pissed off. It was really frustrating, because the reason I was there was to basically avenge 9/11. And at that time they're like, well, sorry, you missed the boat. You're too late.
And we're back again. We had some major technical issues, and we've kind of fixed it. So we're going to go and carry on from where we left off. So, Tony, thank you so much again for working with me to try and fix the technical problems. Touch wood, I've never really had any problems with this setup before, and it's only because maybe I'm going to switch away from them that their gods are trying to punish me. I don't know. But anyway. So Tony, you were mentioning about being an Afghan, being your first deployment, and I suppose just before we move away from that, was there anything from that first deployment that you want to share, something that people would be interested in?
Yeah, I think that's probably the most interesting thing I've ever done in my life happened on that deployment.
Oh, okay.
And that was Operation Red Wings. So if anyone's watching this is familiar, Operation Red Wings is the operation that resulted in the movie that starred Mark Wahlberg called The Lone Survivor.
Mm-hmm.
And that was actually my very first combat mission as a U.S. Army Ranger. And my task was to recover and rescue anyone aboard Turbine 33, which was a Chinook helicopter that was shot down carrying 16 men. So that was my very first task as an Army Ranger, and we can get into that and talk about more about that mission. But
Yeah, absolutely.
not a typical Ranger mission, actually.
Excuse me. So it's not a typical Ranger mission at all. That wasn't expected to kind of feature when you got out there.
Yeah, I mean, typically we're the tip of the fighting force, not necessarily a rescue and recovery force. So, for me, we had trained on it, and I knew what to do, but it wasn't my expertise. My expertise was, eliminating the enemy, and this mission had none of that. It was all about finding lost Americans and bringing them home.
Okay. But you didn't know that the threat, or they didn't know the threat wasn't still there. So maybe that's the part of the reason they used some of the elite force like yourselves.
Yeah, they absolutely thought there was a large enemy force still in the area, and our job was to go in there and completely wipe them out.
Yeah.
But I think we don't give the Afghans enough credit. We don't give the Taliban and Al Qaeda enough credit that they're not that stupid. They know that when things go bad for America, that we send our best. So I think they knew we were coming, and they just hid out the whole time, or they ran away.
Yeah.
Which was a very smart move on their part.